liberal leftists had hoped not to see my face again, but they are in for an unfortunate surprise. I am back after a little break. The family had problems in December. My mom broke her hip, my computer broke down, and I had a toothache, but we got everything settled, taken care of, all operations, extractions, everything done before Christmas Day, so everything went fine. And then after that, it was just a matter of my mom getting better to a point where she could take back some of the duties, and then I got my computer going again, and I'm on a new editing system. I still have both, but yes. So that's where I was over the holidays. And now I am back with renewed resolve to be an activist and to make the world a better place. And to, like I said, we have to push back against the left. Now, as I was hearing on the GB news, they're saying that the wokeness has infected everything. Really, there's no way of fixing it. We just have to start over our new institutions. Basically, it's starting from scratch, because the other institutions have been taken over by the woke. They're too far gone. So we just need to, instead of expending all our time and energy in screaming and yelling and crying and lamenting about the problems of the left, we need to just move on, quietly build what we know needs to be done. You know it needs to be done. We need to build our own entertainment, our own businesses, our own healthcare, our own everything. And eventually, the crumbling system, which is the left, which is currently in a state of collapse, as we have seen that Biden is totally unable to handle anything. And obviously, if President Trump was still in the White House, Putin would not have gone to these great lengths. So, now we are going to discuss the situation in the war. Basically, we're on the outskirts of World War III. So we're going to take a look at what is going on and the reasons why. Some of the reasons why we might be here. Now, I know the left-wing media, even though I haven't been listening to them, I'm sure they are just saying the only reason that Putin is behaving the way he is because he is a mad dictator who wants to conquer the world. And he's just a mean, nasty person, period. That is the only reason why he's doing what he's doing. Now, the mainstream media and the corrupt Democrats want to simplify these things, but it's not quite so simple. And it's difficult to find an unbiased source because there's so many people are willing to just jump into hysteria and jump into being rabid. We've witnessed it during the time of COVID, and we are witnessing it again. And these kind of situations are not new. Just about every nationality has faced discrimination at some point in history. There was a time where the Germans were discriminated against. There was a time where the Irish were discriminated against. There was a time where the Italians were discriminated against. And of course the Jews have been discriminated against. And then during World War II, the Germans and the Japanese were discriminated against. I mean, the Japanese some of them were even rounded up and put into camps in America just because the people thought they were a threat. But it seems now we are going into a period where the Russians are going to be discriminated against. And of course, the left wing, they only want to be discriminatory against who they want to be discriminatory against. During the years when everyone was worried about the terror attacks and the war in Iraq, the Democrats were very definitely defending the Muslims. Very definitely. But, as with this case, the difference is, white people versus non-white. That is one of the reasons why the left champions these causes. And, like I said, the left, frankly, they're mostly white, but they're just virtue signaling. So we see the hypocrisy that is the left, and we will continually point that out. I am not saying that there are 100% good Republicans, absolutely not. but I know the left is dishonest and corrupt. And that's another reason why I changed my status to an independent party, because there's just too many corrupt Republicans for my liking. Okay, so some of the best unbiased reporting that I hear is from, well, Dr. Turley, and I'm enjoying Kim Iverson. She is a reporter on The Hill, a journalist, and she has her own channel, and she's really cool. She's very, I think she's neutral and sensible. Probably a moderate. So, I was watching their videos and trying to get a sense of what has caused Russia to go to these extremes, to go to war. And first of all, we know that it wouldn't have happened under Trump, because Trump is a strong leader, and he would have negotiated, and he would have stood firm, and he also projected a strong presence, and the international leaders knew President Trump meant business. Now, international leaders looking at Biden, I don't think so. They're not a bit worried about him. So, we have the background for war. And as Dr. Turley was pointing out, there is an interview with some general, it was on Fox News, and the general was saying that the reason Russia has decided to go to war is over the NATO, expanding NATO. And he said we've been warned about this since like the late 90s, back when Gorbachev was in there. Russia had said that they would go to war if NATO would come near their borders. And I think they said it was also mentioned again in 2007. So now the rest of us in the world, we're not paying attention. We do not know these international geopolitical politics. And why would we? It wouldn't be something we would know. It's something we would leave to our politicians to understand until things, explode. But, so this seems to be the primary motivation. Russia felt that the NATO was getting close to them by infiltrating Ukraine. They said that in 2014, the left-wingers in the West switched presidents from an elected president that was pro-Russia to a appointed president that was pro-America. So that's another point of contention. And so we're seeing this as this is kind of a rebellion against the world. So whereas the left thought they were going to have a straight march throughout the world and be able to make everybody woke and goofy like them. So anyhow, that's another one of the reasons. So there's different reasons. So we'll say that this background for this war has been brewing for about 20 years, give or take a year. So it's not something that's come out of the blue. And like I said, this is technically does come under the heading of a world war, because it doesn't seem like Putin's anger and rebellion is not necessarily directed at Ukraine. It is sort of it's a reaction. It's a reaction to what the West and Europe are doing. So in a sense, and Ukraine is caught in the middle. It's caught in the middle of this controversy between Russia and the West. And that is why we're having a problem. And it seems like one of the main goals in this was to force Ukraine to be a neutral state. And I guess they don't want to be a neutral state. And there's also a controversy. There was a couple of regions in Ukraine that they said wanted to break away from the other part of Ukraine and wanted to join Russia. And something about they were being held back, or Ukraine was trying to prevent them from breaking away. So that's another issue there. So it's one of the other excuses given for the invasion, that Russia was going in because those couple of areas asked them. So be that as it may, that was another example. Then we also have the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2. And I'll bet most of us haven't heard of it. I hadn't until I watched Kim's report. And in it, it says that it's Europe, and Europe gets a lot of their gas and oil from Russia. And that is one of the things that has helped Russia to raise their standard of living so quickly for all their people in the last, 40 years, is the pipeline. So they had Nord Stream 1, and now they just recently completed Nord Stream 2. And they, I don't know if they have threatened to shut it off or they have shut it off, because they said, if you cause any trouble with the other countries, then we're shutting it off. And so basically, so if they're cutting off the gas or oil, then that is going to, like I said, cause serious damage to the Russian economy and the country. And so therefore, it seems to be something they're want to go to war over. Before I started this broadcast, I saw a special report from Alex Jones in my email box saying that Putin says cutting off their oil is declaring war. So it seems like this is escalating rather than de-escalating. And also with Biden refusing to drill for oil on American shores and trying to cut off that oil and not being able to replace it, I think we're going to end up crippling ourselves as well. Maybe we'll end up crippling Russia, but we're going to be crippled also. And certainly I hope that's enough to keep Biden and Democrats from being elected. I mean, we have a lot of politicians that are no good. We have a lot of up-and-coming politicians who are no good, even in the Republican ranks. So the whole point is, I guess we just keep kicking out the old ones and bringing in new ones until we get to a point where honesty starts to filter through. Beyond that, we just need to build our parallel economies and slowly phase out the corrupt and broken ones. So we see with this war in Ukraine it's really about war with the West, and Ukraine is in the middle. That's really what it is. And also with the gas and oil prices and everything, that's also a part of it. So you see there are motivations. Now, I'm not inside Putin's head. I don't know exactly what final thing that pushed his button. I don't know what could have been done differently to have averted this tragedy. But whatever it is, something spooked him, and spooked him to push the war button. And I don't think we know exactly what that is, but we are all going to have problems as a result of it. And I said, and the discrimination against Russians in general is probably going to end up mirroring the discrimination against the Japanese during World War II. That seems to be just the way things go. So no matter how much anti-discrimination people claim to have, people just naturally discriminate or naturally mean. Now, another point in all of this is that the failed and corrupt leaders of the Western world might also be excited to have this happen, because then it can distract from their own failures. Because, COVID is winding down, at least winding down in a lot of ways. And people are starting to see through them. They're seeing the lies that they told, the corruption, how they ruined businesses, jobs, economies, tried to pass off snake oil medicine on them. And the people are getting pretty mad, and they're not having it. So something like a war would be something that could help unite everybody behind the corrupt leaders and help save their floundering careers and help divert the long arm of the law from grabbing them by the scruff of the neck for what they did during COVID, because now the stakes are much higher and everybody's having a lot more worries and concerns. So that is another possibility. The elites are also looking for an opportunity to distract the public from their COVID crimes. So that, my friends, is my opening analysis of the situation and the motivations for war that we can see, that are reasonably visible to us. But yes, we the people haven't been paying attention. We don't know what's going on, and so we're surprised by this. So I can only say that we hope that it will be able to be resolved swiftly and before there's any more damage done. But it seems like we are entering into a new era of war and tensions, as none of these world leaders are going to trust the other. And it's just not a good look. Everybody's sort of scared of each other. They're on the defensive. It looks like Russia and China are going to ally each other. And it looks like even the United States, we might end up destroying ourselves with our oil problems. So we hope that we can get a President Trump back soon, or someone very similar to him. But the problem is it going to be too much too late? You know? Too little too late, I believe. Dr. Turley was discussing on today's video about how the Wisconsin is saying that their election was irregular, and there's definitely some problems in it. We could might throw out these votes, from 2020. But as I said, is there going to be anything left of the country by the time the states get around to completing their investigations? I mean, yes, maybe in another year we'll win the decertification war, but by that time America's going to be in pretty bad shape and in tatters. So, too little, too late. So I guess we just need to take a lesson from that, and we've got to remember that the people must stay involved, and we must relentlessly pursue the justice of corrupt politicians. We cannot allow civilization to run on autopilot and allow corruption to progress. So, all right. Well, it's good to be back with you folks, and I'm hoping to do more frequent videos. It'd be nice to do daily, but I don't know if I'm going to feel like getting on camera every day. I'll think about it. I mean, if Dr. Turley and Tim Pool can do it, then I guess I can do it. Just have to take the bull by the horns. So, all right. Talk to you later. Let freedom ring.